Okay. So let's start with the pain. I think that's the interesting place to start with. So, given particularly you spend your time advising restaurant industry. You came up in the restaurant industry. What do you see, especially right now, this point in time, are the biggest challenge or challenges that these organizations are facing to fully engaging their employees?
Wow, that's a really good question. I think the biggest pain point, this is maybe not the pain point shows up as it's hard to find workers, it's hard to keep workers. Obviously with low unemployment, recruiting people, and then the massive amounts of turnover that's happening in the industry is a huge problem. But fundamentally, I think the pain point is communication and a lack thereof. I think we're really good at talking at the people that work in our organizations, and we're really shy or embarrassed in some cases to listen to them.
Interesting. So that's at all levels? I mean, that's down to the front level. I'm assuming that's where it really matters, is right at the service level.
Especially at that level, right?
Yeah.
You know, for example, I worked at a company where we had 16 to 20-year-olds working the front line, and we did a Willie Nelson campaign for marketing. And we just assumed everybody would be so stoked that we got Willie Nelson to do this marketing campaign for our company. And we found out they had no idea who he was.
Why are we using this?
They're like, it's the guy who smokes weed. And I'm like, first of all, let's not talk to our customers about that. Second of all, you're right. But third of all, he's much more important than that. And that's a lesson, right? Like, if they're going to execute the concepts we come up with, we sit in our offices and create these Rube Goldbergs, and then we don't listen to them when they say, I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. I don't understand. We're like, no, you don't get it because I'm the smart one. And in reality, they're the smart one. And we should start by asking them about these things.
So give me some examples of where you've seen that work. Like, what does good look like in terms of communication with that front line?
I think it's probably pretty embarrassing that I don't have a great example. I'll give you like what I think is an okay example.
Okay.
There's a company who has created, they take their top performers, highly engaged people, and they put them in digital communication circles with the CEO themselves. So the CEO, and this is through Facebook, not that I want to promote Facebook, but it's the easiest medium, right? And like, hey, good for a giant company trusting a technology that hasn't been vetted through a stage gate process.
Right, they have no control.
And saying, I do want to listen to you. So that CEO has the opportunity to go to top performers in the company, and those top performers rotate through the circle on Facebook, and they get to go, this is what we're thinking about. Before we do that, is there anything I should know? Right? It's, I think it's a great way to do that. I just saw somebody at this session where they've embedded a feedback tool on pay. So this is Unilever, where they've given employees the opportunity to comment on their pay packages. Now, that seems interesting and basic, but the reality is pay is one of those topics that we don't want to talk about.
Right.
It's one of those topics where we're saying, hey, you take this offer letter, and if you don't like it, you can ask for a little bit, but don't piss us off about it, right?
Right.
And this is a company that's being willing to open themselves up and say, if you don't like it, let us know so we can start a conversation to move it in a direction where you will be satisfied.
Sure.
And that's the whole point. I mean, if you're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in some cases, or hundreds of dollars in other cases, make sure that the person receiving it is receiving the full gift of it.
Got it.
Yeah.
So in your, there's a lot of talk about employee engagement in all sorts of industries. Certainly your industry is no different. What do you think it is that, we don't seem to be making a ton of progress, right? We're still having a lot of the same conversations today that we were having 10 years ago, that we were having 20 years ago about engaging and retaining employees. What is it that managers or leaders don't understand, or do you think misunderstand about engagement that maybe is holding us back from making real progress?
I think that workers, managers, and executives are in trauma and pain because two things are broken fundamentally. I'm going to say one, and it's going to be more provocative than the other.
Sure.
The first thing I'm going to say is that I think capitalism is broken. And to be polite about it, I think it needs to evolve. I believe in capitalism, I'm an American, I believe in all of those things, but I believe that making the shareholder the fundamental, essential person that needs to be satisfied misses the suppliers, the customers, the employees, and all of those things. So I think that capitalism creates a lot of inherent issues across the organization because we're not attuned to this idea that profit for the shareholder is not the only thing that matters. It's one of the things. I mean, I love the way the conscious capitalism movement describes this. Like, you and I need to make white blood cells to survive, but we're not on Earth to produce white blood cells. Companies need to make profit to survive. There's no question about that. That profit, as it's taxed and as it creates jobs for other people, will give us many beautiful things in our country, but it's not why companies exist. So the first thing is that capitalism needs to evolve and be more aware. And I think that awareness will create choice on behalf of the way we've structured our economy and our organizations. That's really big, hard to do something about that. Other than join the conscious capitalism movement or read about it. I mean, there are a lot of really enlightened leaders out there. The second thing is, I think management's broken. And I think management's broken because we failed to realize that fundamentally humans are imperfect. So we attack this from the idea that we're going to be the best, we're not going to make mistakes, everything's going to be error-proof. And essentially the reason we have business, the reason we have religion, the reason we have politics is because the world is made up of imperfect people. And those imperfect people work for us, those imperfect people manage us, and those imperfect people lead us. And we're trying to build a trap that makes them perfect. Never going to be. And then we take managers who have technical skill sets and we say, you should lead other people. And we forget that every leadership principle we know of doesn't say anything about how you use Excel and talks everything about how you manage a relationship with another human being to motivate them. So you talk a lot about being in relationship, and what would the world be like if we wouldn't let someone become a manager until we thought they could have healthy relationships with other beautifully imperfect people? So I get like really fired up about that, but I essentially believe it's true. I think we could give each other a break if we acknowledge that we're imperfect. I think if we started the day asking the question like, did they mean well? Did they do the right thing even if they did it for the wrong reason? Is this something that's coachable? And we were willing to have those conversations because we wanted to maintain a good relationship with them. Work would be a much, much more exciting place to go to. Instead, I think...
I agree.
I mean, a disengagement is another way of saying is like, I'm just going to opt out of doing anything constructively productive that seems, destructive, but really turns into something incredibly powerful.
So I'll give you since how we talked about management, this will be a nice sort of segue, because you have, I think we both have sort of a love-hate relationship with management in general. I'm going to hand you a magic wand. You can use that magic wand to will into extinction any specific management mindset or behavior or approach or practice or fad. What do you choose? Because you wave that wand, it's gone.
Wow. That's a serious responsibility. Gosh, I know that you guys have probably talked about all the things we hate. All the things we hate lists, probably like performance reviews, different types of compensation methods. My thing, I think I want to get rid of the idea that it should be simple and that there's a silver bullet. You and I have worked with a lot of companies, and the companies who get it know that essentially there is no easy way out. They're willing to look at their problems realistically. They're willing to prioritize their problems. They're willing to scope it out, ask good questions, talk to the front line, have really deep conversations, and then they're willing to be all in on solving that problem. It's not software. It's not a consultant. It's not an easy fix. I mean, People who want what other people have to be willing to do at least what they did or more.
Right.
And the companies I work with that are most formidable have grit, they have awareness, and they really don't look for an easy way out. They look for doing the right thing for the long term.
Got it. If you've got a manager on the other side of this video, who's thinking about their team and desperately wants to improve engagement in that team tomorrow or next week, what piece of advice could you give them?
The one thing I wish I knew is that awareness creates choice. So if we want someone to make a good choice, we have to communicate with them. We have to share with them what it is we think they may not know, share with them our values, and then allow them to make the choice and support them in that choice. Unless it's going to do something devastating, support them in that choice. And if things wobble, sit down with them and say, how can I support you in this choice? Do you want to change course? All of that is fine, but until they have total awareness, until we give them our insights and our values and our beliefs, then we're not totally leading or supporting them. We're allowing them to do something in a way that handicaps them, quite honestly. You know, I learned a difficult lesson because I had done something at work that was the wrong thing, right? Like, I made a mistake. It happens. We're all imperfect, beautiful human beings, but I didn't really give myself a break for that. And I was talking to my manager and he said, look, he's like, what I value about what you did is you made the wrong choice, but you did it with heart. You did it with kindness. You did it with compassion. You did it for the right reasons. He said, there are really a few different types of mistakes you can make. He's like, and most of them are forgivable. You can do the right thing for the right reason. That is my ultimate aspiration and goal for you as your manager. But if you do the right thing for the wrong reason, I will coach you on why the rationale was wrong, but appreciate that you did the right thing. If you did the wrong thing for the right reason, we will correct that thing, and I will applaud that you did it for the right reason. The only time I will be disappointed in you is if you do the wrong thing for the wrong reason. So those are the 4 types of decisions you make. I'm always trying to do the right thing for the right reason, but sometimes I make mistakes, and I hope that I never do the wrong thing for the wrong reason.